Welcome to episode 29 of the Necronoma.com. Today's episode is brought to you by the word Scopophilia. Scopophilia literally means the love of looking. The term refers to the predominantly male gaze of Hollywood cinema, the enjoyment of objectifying women into mere objects to be looked at, rather than subjects of their own voice or subjectivity. Freud associated scopophilia with subjecting others to a controlling and curious gaze. British feminist film theorist Laura Mulvey took this psychoanalytic framework and established scopophilia as a cinematic term for how the camera consciously aims to eliminate intrusive camera presence and prevent a distancing awareness in the audience, allowing the male gaze to eroticize the female body on screen and make her a spectacle to be watched and figuratively consumed. This is often accomplished by the camera focusing on specific body parts instead of a woman as a whole, showing her mouth, her leg, her hand, her breast, rather than the full woman at once, emulating how men sexualize looking at specific parts of a female body. The 1970s saw the emergence of rape revenge films, which heavily employed the use of scopophilia in filming. The rape revenge film utilizes the male gaze to objectify the female body before, during, and after her rape. While these films were often seen as too explicit to be sold in stores, others argue that they have aided in bringing the horrors and the reality of rape to the forefront to encourage conversation and discussion. Are these films exploitation? Are they empowerment? Either way, they're pure horror. And today, we're jumping into one that takes it a step further and adds the horror of losing your child to her rapist, and the links that you would go to deal with it. We're talking Last House on the Left. I am James Sabata, horror author, screenwriter, co-host of the podcast you're listening to right now. And sometimes, to keep from fainting, I just keep repeating, it's just a movie. It's just a movie.
And I am Don Guillory, author, historian, educator. And yeah, I don't even care if it's a movie or not, because I realize that we apparently are living in some weird timeline or inside the Matrix. So none of this shit is real, apparently.
Oh, man, you could at least let me introduce our guest before we get too into that. So joining us today is my friend Ian Lovecraft. Ian, tell us about yourself.
I am Ian Lovecraft. I am co-founder of the Esoteric Order of Geekdom, based out of Las Vegas, Nevada. We do horror trivia, book clubs, karaoke, geeky get-together events, and then I'm also part of Savage Membrane Productions. We have some movies on the horizon, quite possibly, but can't really get anything about that into too much detail.
Fantastic. So I know you've listened to a couple episodes of the show, and so you know that I'm going to ask you why you chose this film. But before I do that, I also want to know why you chose this version of the film. Before we came on to record, we were kind of talking about the different versions. So if you could hit me with both of those, I'd love to hear that.
I picked Last House on the Left, the 1972 version, because, people always talk about it being so hardcore and crazy. And so I'm not going to, at this point, I'm not going to say how I feel about the movie. But yeah, that's why I picked that, because this movie is just held in pretty high regard for what it is.
Awesome. And you have seen the 2009.
Yes,
so
I have.
We'll probably get into the difference there, but did you go with this one because it's the Wes Craven chosen one over the other one, or is there any other particular reason that you want to talk about at this point, or not?
I really went because it was the Wes Craven. It is the classic one that everybody seems to go back on. Like, people hardly even remember that there was a remake of this, I think. And then, but the tagline that you used that, this is only a movie, this is only a movie. Like, how can you not go with this and over the other movie that I don't even know if it had a tagline, because who remembers the 2009 version, really?
Don does.
Well, yeah,
But
I don't recall them having a tagline up either. I mean, not to the point where, because I watched the trailer for the 1972 version before I watched the film, and every now and then I'll do that just to kind of get an idea of how it was being marketed. And for me, I watched and I was like, I remember like even in the 80s, there were kind of these warnings with the films of, hey man, you got to remember it's going to be scary. This will be the scariest film that you'll see all year. To the point, people were kind of taking it seriously, and that was a reason for them to go. Whereas you hear that now, as far, somebody mentions, oh, this is the scariest film of 2019 or 2020. 5 people died from shock, or they threw up while there was so much blood. You hear that now as far as, on social media or the news or whatever. You're like, bullshit, that didn't happen. But, in the 70s and the 80s, I remember you heard that, and friends of yours like, I'm not going to fucking see that movie, man. Some shit's going to go down. I'm not going to see it. And then for some reason you end up getting 8 of your friends, and you all go to see it, and you fuck with each other about who's, who can't make it through the entire film.
I wish we could go back to marketing like that. Like, I get that we can't because, we have so much coming at us now. But, man, I would love to have been alive like when Hitchcock was cutting his little trailers, or just the stuff like this, like To Keep From Fainting, it's a movie, or whatever the one was where they claimed like that people were throwing up and leaving the theater, just shit like that. That would have been so cool. And now it's like, hey, a new horror movie's coming out. It's probably stupid. And then everybody else is like, no, it's not. It's great.
Yeah,
I feel like we really got gypped with that.
Yeah, I'd really love to experience something like that. That it's so crazy that people are literally getting up. I know when I went and saw The Witch, and it had been released for a little bit. It had been out for a week or two. 3 or 4 people of like the 7 people that were there watching the movie got up and left. But I don't think it was because they were disturbed. I think they were just bored.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I mean, but I'd like to go in and see a movie that is just messing people up so bad that they're just either they're so scared they have to leave, or they're getting physically ill. That happened to me once when I was a kid and I saw Garbage Pail Kids the movie. I threw up after I watched it. But I think I had bad popcorn or something that day.
I think I know what scene you're talking about from that movie.
I never got to see that movie. I was huge into Garbage Pail Kids, and my parents were like, no, we're not going to that. And then I never got to see it. So it sounds like that's okay.
Wait, you still haven't seen it to this day?
No. Should I watch it
this week? Yes.
Well, I'm not going to watch it this week. I'm going on vacation. Screw that.
I'm sure some of the corniness and the jokes hold up. Because I'm thinking of a few scenes right now where I'm like, it would be on the same level as far as kind of the corniness and slightly adult humor that you would have in something like SpongeBob or Warner Brothers. But you might at this point just laugh at it just at the absurdity of it. I mean, hell, the cards themselves were an advertisement for a film that hadn't even been made, and I don't even remember the film being marketed because I watched it from a rental at Blockbuster or whatever the local video store was, and it was like all my friends, we would just laugh about this film and all the goofy shit that was taking place in the film.
Everybody go watch it, and then I'll watch it, and then we'll discuss it on our Facebook page. All right, so let's come back to this movie, because that's why Ian's here, not to inspire us to watch Garbage Pail Kids, the movie. I'm going to let Ian point us in the direction we're going to go, but can I just say one thing that really bothers me about this movie? It should be called It's the Only Fucking House Out There.
Yes, in the 72 version. However, the name applies appropriately in the 2009 version.
Exactly.
There we go.
My wife noticed that whenever we were watching the 72 version again, she's like, you realize that all the cars come up to the road that this house is on the right, and it's not at the end of the road.
Yes.
It's not even on the left, so it's not the last house right on the left. And that was like the very first thing we said when we saw the 2009 version, because we watched it right afterwards. We're like, hey, well, this has to be a better movie because at least the house is at the end and it is on the left. So they're already doing 1,000 times better here at this point.
That's hilarious. I love that. I'm glad it's not just me. All right, so start us out. Where would you like to go, Ian?
I know like one thing that had to been going on in like the 70s is how, I mean, and they still do it some today, is, they were all based on true events. Like Texas Chainsaw Massacre was the big thing.
Right.
And this movie did the same exact thing, with the title card based on true events. Even though this movie is like, this is essentially, he based this movie off of another movie.
Yes.
Anyway, and it's like, I guess that was just like something to just try to catch people's attention back then. I don't think we really do it as much anymore because people.
Well, the internet would eat it alive now.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, so, but like I don't understand. I mean, I guess that's just like a part of the hype machine, just kind of like with the poster, the tagline, like, just keep repeating, it's only a movie, it's only a movie. When, I mean, I don't know. Like, I guess it's just marketing. I mean, like you're saying, like nowadays the internet, like people just Snopes any of this stuff. Nope. This isn't based on, true events. Somebody at one point claimed they lived on the left side of the house, on the left side of the road, when they actually didn't. So based on true story.
Can you imagine if that title card came up and it was like based on a Swedish art film? I don't think it would have the same effect.
Or in the academic world, the infamous "as revealed to me in a dream" citation.
Right. And, Wes Craven did the same thing with like Nightmare on Elm Street. He tried to say that's based on a true story where some kid, was having frightening dreams and he ended up dying in his dream or something. And it's just like, okay. Like, I mean, I guess, maybe it worked for this movie. He's like, so maybe it'll work with Nightmare on Elm Street. Maybe I'll just tell people in interviews I'm basing this movie on actual events. I'm sure somewhere in the world there probably was somebody named Fred Krueger.
Mm-hmm.
So there's probably every town has an Elm Street. That's what they say. So,
and I think a lot of towns had a janitor that was probably doing some creepy shit. So,
especially back then,
right? Oh man, but yeah, the big thing for me with this film is when I was going back into it, I remembered it differently than the way it plays out. Like, I mean, I remembered the plot okay, but like the tension is just ongoing through the whole thing. And it's so good at that, except for these two stupid cops that keep fucking shit up. And it kept pulling me out, but we can come back to that. But the other parts without the cops, the tension is just constant. And you don't see that as much now. Like, you get a lot of movies with tension and then a bit of a release to let you calm down. And then we hit you with more tension, And I really like how that reflects what the girls would have been going through. Just that nonstop fear.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one thing that I think Wes Craven did really great in this. But I wish that he would have been smart enough to cut the parts that negated that.
Right. And also, like, with the girls that they capture or whatever, like, you see the one, like, break down. Like, I think it's, like, towards the beginning when they're raping her buddy in the apartment still. Like, she just mentally shuts down. Like, you see that she's just, she just can't deal with it. And that would, I'm sure that's, is what happens a lot of the times in real life. So it's like he did capture that some of the mentality, just like you're seeing something so horrible happen, like your friend being raped,
right?
That you're just mentally going to shut down and not be able to function at that point.
What about you, Don? Does the tension work for you?
It does with regard to the story, but there are points where I'm kind of pulled out of it because of the music. Or at least, the way that's taking place, and it makes it a little campy for me, because comparing the 2009 version to the 1972 version, the tension in the 2009 version is a little bit shorter because there's not that much time that's spent on what these young girls are going through. There's still the brutality of the beating, the murder, and rape that takes place. And then the attempted escape by one of the girls. But in the 1972 version, the anticipation that I felt, or at least the anxiety that I felt, was you know, what are they going to do? Because they're already, they're already violating these girls. And even from that first moment when they go there to go, in their words, to go score some grass, they go to this spot to go get some drugs. And, with all those warnings that we talked about with horror films of the 70s and 80s, they're breaking all those things. Actually, let me go back a little bit further. I was creeped out not just by the action of those four individuals that are committing these acts against the two girls, but the family situation that's set up. And again, I didn't grow up in the 70s. I was born in the 70s. I grew up in the 80s. But I found it very odd that the dad, in seeing that his daughter is going to go to a concert, says, "Hey, no bra? You could just see your tits." Just how weird that was, and how familiar. I saw that as a violation of who she was as well, a violation of her body. Because her dad is sitting there, looking and saying, like, you know what, you should really go put a bra on. And the mom makes her comments about, yeah, you're just letting them hang out there and just bounce around. You need to put on a bra. And they have this short discussion about the appropriateness of wearing a bra in public and how she might be seen, before the dad lets her know, hey, you're going to be going into a really bad neighborhood where that concert is. I want to make sure you're careful. And that idea, that misconception that it's going to be that bad part of town that's going to lead to something bad happening to her, when the bad thing that happens to her is, while she's engaging in, at least in this activity with a friend, and what she's assuming is going to be safe, it never makes it to the concert. But the anxiety I had was, once they capture these young girls, like what's going to happen here in this apartment or this hotel room. And then this moment where they're put into the trunk of the car, which again, the tension is broken up by kind of what the characters are doing, because the guy and the girl, they're having sex while another guy's driving, and another one is just watching them have sex in the car as it drives down the road or rides down the road. But imagining what must have been going on with those young girls in their head. Because I would have loved, as opposed to seeing this kind of goofy, campy interaction between these criminals, these girls in the trunk through that entire ride. Because I think that would have built a little bit more tension, made me feel a little bit more insecure about what is going to take place or what's going to happen to them, as opposed to, all right, they're doing this goofy shit in the car as they're riding down the road. The girls are in the trunk. And at a certain point, I think I even forgot they were in the trunk until they stopped and got them out of the trunk. And then proceeded to, have this abuse of these girls out in the woods.
And how crazy is it that the car breaks down like right by their house too?
Yeah.
It's like what's the chances of that?
That was a little weird for me. I don't know. I just feel like there's so many ways to write around that instead of that.
Like one of the girls could have said something about, because she says it to the son about her dad having drugs or whatever. So maybe they could have said something like that, and then they're heading out that way because they wanted to score the drugs or something. So we just randomly drive by the last house on the left, and our car breaks down. But then we go the
fucking house out there.
Yeah, the only house around for miles.
Going back to what you were saying about the dad talking to his daughter about her breasts. What I thought was interesting is he's like, they can see your nipples. And he kind of I don't know if he points at them, but in my head, he points directly at them. But he's talking about her nipples nonstop. They're all talking about her breasts. And then she says tits, and he loses his fucking mind.
Right. And
he's like, tits. You can't say tits, And that just sums up so much of America today for me. We get so hung up on these little fucking words, like fucking, for instance, and we miss the irony of these horrific things that we're talking about, and we're just stuck on some word. And I thought it was really interesting that something that came out in 1972 did this same thing, because I wasn't alive in 72, so I don't know what life was like. But it's just weird to me how that's a continuing trend. So I just wanted to throw that in.
At least with the generational argument. And somebody, woke me up to this, a few years ago, and basically stated all these older people that are trying to shame the younger generation need to act as though they weren't fucking when they were our age. And they weren't running in the streets. They weren't doing all this other stuff. They need to stop acting like they weren't, because they were. And I've talked to, fellow students, people I run into, sometimes half my age, and they have that same, at least that same view cast upon them, as far as like there's a certain way they're supposed to behave. And I tell them, like, look, you got to understand, your mom was doing the same shit you're doing. Your grandma's doing the same shit you were doing. Your grandpa, the same thing. Odds are they were doing that. Live your life.
Yeah, really fast. I just want to send a shout out to my wife's grandmother. She passed away a couple years ago. But when I first met her, so probably 10 or 11 years now, right? The first time I ever met her, I'm at this family get together, and she chooses me. And like when everyone else is in the room, she's not really saying much. As soon as they'd leave, she'd be like, let me tell you about my sorority days. And she's telling me about like tanning topless on top of the sorority house and different shit like that, and just having a great time reliving these memories. And she's probably like, I'm never going to see you again. I can tell you anything, Right. And yeah, so when you're saying everyone was doing what you're doing, like, I always appreciated that I got this piece from grandma that no one else got to hear, like it was such a cool thing. And so I just want to say, anybody out there, tell future generations, when you're an old person and you don't have to give a fuck at all anymore, just pick random people and tell them everything, because it'll fuck with them for years. So Ian, what else do you where else do you want to go with this? That's my question.
I know Don had brought it up, and you had said something earlier about like the how it would break the tension with the goofy music that they just cut to out of like nowhere. Like they'd have like a serious scene, and then it would sound like some like Three Stooges or Benny Hill music would like kick on.
It's the worst soundtrack ever.
Yeah, I was like, what? And then like Don was saying, in the 2009 version, like it's nothing like that. Like they don't cut to Benny Hill music and have them like running around in circles or anything. There's
no kazoo playing in the background.
Yeah, like that was something that like because I had totally forgotten that that it was like that and then we went to rewatch it, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Like whoever decided to do this as your score, you should never use this person ever again, because I don't know, maybe they needed to break the tension because people back then wouldn't have been able to take it.
I don't know. I was reading, and I don't know the validity of this, like the internet, it could be totally wrong. But the thing I read said that the soundtrack was made specifically for this movie. Wow. Like that they had it commissioned for this. And I was like, you wasted a lot of money for that then, because this does not fit at all.
Somebody's cousin needed a job.
Right? So yeah, in my notes, I literally wrote worst fucking soundtrack ever. So I guess I can cross that off.
Yeah, it was horrible. Like it was just so weird, like when it would come up, because you'd be there serious, and then whoop, 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 whoop. It's like, okay, what's going on here?
That was amazing. Boy. Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking. And again, it's one of those things that really pulls you out. So.
And then we have the bumbling cops that you had brought up earlier that were like literally pointless for the entire story. So pointless that they don't even exist in the 2009 version of this movie.
Good. They shouldn't exist in this one. There should be a cut.
The only redeeming part of them is that one of them is the sensei from the Karate Kid. I was like, wow, hey, look, there he is. So this is what he did before he went to train. He was a shitty cop. This is probably how he did that, because he lost his job.
That's why he's so angry.
Yeah.
Yeah, he photoshopped all those special forces pictures that he puts on the wall.
And then the cop car runs out of gas.
Right.
What's wrong with the car? Oh, you idiot! It's out of gas.
Right.
Seriously?
But then what is also really cool is at least a piece of the time, or at least a time capsule that's represented in the film for us watching it later, is these police officers or sheriff and deputy are off on the side of the road trying to find somebody to help them, and the hippies that see them, they're like, "Fuck you, pigs," and like just peel off. We ain't helping no fucking cops. And it was a great moment, as far as with time, whereas I'm sure in the 70s they treated it as it was a whole lot funnier, or would play a lot funnier in the movie theater, because one, you got these bumbling cops who they're looking for help. You've got the I'm assuming the hippies that basically told them, like, we're not going to help you, and then the hippies helping them might have gotten them to the scene a whole lot sooner. So it's just one of those cool ways of excusing why they can't be there. Because I'm sure someone asked a question as far as like, hey, you got these fugitives out on the run. I'm sure somebody's going to be looking for them, or at least have some idea. Because even the one person that helps them is the chicken farmer, and she does the fucking math, which kills me. Where they get on top of the truck, and she's like, well, truck's too heavy because I only calculated for X amount of chickens, and you've got to be worth so and so amount of chickens, and so you know what, my truck can't go. And I'm just sitting there laughing at how, and again, that's one of those things that's cool because we talk about the humor that's involved in a lot of these horror films. But then with this one, it's so goofy, it's so corny and campy, it pulls you out, as opposed to like, oh shit, these guys need to get there soon so they can help at least help with whatever's about to take place. But then you're kind of like, it's kind of funny. Oh shit, we need to go back to being serious.
Yeah, I read that the chicken lady was like just the housekeeper at the place where they were filming. And that's why she's such an amazing actress in this film. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, that's fantastic. Like, then I'm like, were they like, did they have somebody cast and they didn't show up? Or were they like, shit, we never cast the chicken lady? Or were they like, that lady's nuts, we got to write her into this film? Like, I would love to know that story. Going back to the two cops, I don't know if it's just that my dad made me watch Smokey and the Bandit so many fucking times, but that's the feeling I got. It was these two cops that are arguing all the time, right? And the young one's stupid and blah, blah, blah. And it just felt very similar to me, even though it's probably not. I haven't watched Smokey and the Bandit in years, but it's how I remember it. And then I was like, were cops just that dumb at the time? Or like, did people hate police that much and that was the only thing they could do to them? I don't know. These are the stupid things I think about. There were a good
number of movies like that, because even in the James Bond films, the Live and Let Die, and I forgot the other one that you had the one sheriff, the bumbling sheriff, the Louisiana Parish sheriff that they had, and he played kind of the cookie cutter redneck character that you would have had in the 1970s. And he got into the same things that you saw with the Smokey and the Bandit films, or even the sheriff and the deputy here, where things are going well, and oh shit, I tried to jump this thing and follow this guy. Now my car's crashed. Oh, I'm gonna call my son-in-law to go chase him down. And meanwhile, the son-in-law gets carjacked by one of the black mafia members, the black voodoo gang members. And he's sitting there, it's like, oh, nobody's going to stop Billy Bob. Billy Bob, he's going to catch up. He's from the other side of the family. If one side of the family doesn't get you, the other side will. And then all these cops just see this one black guy going by in the boat. And they're like, look at him like, is this for real? The same type of thing, a serious-esque spy movie. And you have that bumbling cop. But yeah, you have the same thing with the Dukes of Hazzard. So there was kind of this Barty Fife, for that matter. You had this thing that's already built into a good number of 60s and 70s films, or 60s and 70s films and TV shows, where there is that bumbling cop, sheriff, deputy that's out there, which makes it fun.
I just want to say that as time has gone by, I've really identified more with Roscoe P. Coltrane than with the Dukes.
You're not alone there.
So let's get into the craziness of this film. You have the rape scenes. Mm-hmm. Apparently, they were going to use actual sex scenes, like not simulated at all. Wes Craven was going to go full real sex here. I think that's crazy. Like, can you imagine, like, if they had shown rape that way? Like, people lost their minds with this. Like,
yeah,
I don't know what they were.
Their minds if they would have did that. People would have went nuts.
Like, I can't even imagine. Like, and then, like, I think about the consequences from my own point of view. Like, my life would be totally different if they had done that, because Craven goes on to make Friday the 13th. Sean Cunningham goes on, to make Nightmare on Elm Street. Sean Cunningham goes on to make Friday the 13th. The two series that influenced the shit out of myself and my writing, right? So, like, if they had done this, they're probably never making another fucking movie. and I wonder how weird my life would be now. It's very strange.
Well, you say that, but here's the thing. Revenge of the Nerds had a rape scene, and they made it
not real sex.
But no. What I'm saying is, it is as far as the way it's represented. It's represented, and that would be my problem with having sex, confusing sex and rape with something like this, whether it's like, oh, we're gonna have this sex scene and as part of the rape scene, as opposed to we're gonna have a sex scene to show rape as not this violent thing, which then it further gives ammunition to any of the people that say, like, oh, well, it actually wasn't rape because it didn't look like that, or or whatever excuse people give when there is a sexual assault that takes place. But yeah, I could see a huge backlash from that taking place. And even, 20, 30 years on afterwards, where someone would say, this was problematic and we didn't recognize it at the time. Yeah. Whereas in the 2009 version, that scene is not problematic in the sense of like they're trying to excuse rape or anything like that. It's problematic because it's very tough to watch, but it's beneficial because you understand, or at least from the vantage point they're offering you, that this can't be confused as anything else of like these guys are, taking this girl out into the woods and she's saying no, but she really means yes, that type of bullshit that people would say. It's very clear from the beginning she's going to be assaulted in some way, either physically or sexually. And when that part is seen, I mean, I myself find myself like trying not to look at that scene, just because of what it represents and what it means, and also the fact that we as a society, unfortunately, don't take rape as seriously as we should, whether we're talking about adults or children, for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, we use terms like sex with underage girls. And that's not a thing. That's rape.
Right.
And the way that we use words is so important in that way. I think for me, it comes down to what I call the Anakin Skywalker moment. When you don't show something, my brain makes it so much worse than it would have been if you had showed it.
Right.
And so for me, honing in on the reactions of people watching somebody be raped is so much worse to me than if you showed me the original sex scene they were going to do, or if you showed me the, for lack of a better term, the human version of the end of Splice. Either of those, I think my brain is still going to make it fucking worse than if you show it to me. What about you, Ian?
Yeah, I agree. Like, just seeing how, like you said, the other characters' reaction to especially like when the second girl gets raped out in the woods or whatever, just like when they were done, everybody there just seemed like they were disgusted,
right,
with what they had just seen. And it's like, well, like literally the night before, you guys were all about, raping the other the other chick or whatever, and then it happens in the woods, and I guess it was just, because it was so brutal and stuff, like you could just see like their reaction is just like all of them, even the guy who did it, like, they just all seem like that just messed them up real bad.
And you get the aspect of carving his name into her chest as well, which, like, oh my God, like what a great representation for the rape that was about to happen, I mean, like, either way, you're traumatizing her. I mean, obviously she dies in this, but if she had lived, either way, you are scarring her for life. Mm-hmm. And I think whether it was intentional or not, it is absolutely amazing symbolism for what's about to happen. Anyway, what were we going to say, Don?
Oh, no, I was going to say that the only problem I have with at least seeing it from the rapist and the group's perspective is that it almost makes them sympathetic. Like, oh, my gosh, they realize, what they did was wrong, and they're so shocked and scarred by it. That was the part I had a problem with, aside from the sexual assault. Just seeing their faces, for me, I was kind of like, no, I don't want to feel anything sympathetic for you guys, whether that was the intention of those making the film or not. The disgusted look they all have as far as what they did and what they've witnessed. For me, it just becomes one of those things where I'm kind of like, no, I want something really bad to happen to you. I don't even want 1% of me thinking like, oh, well, they understand what they did. I mean, even though, you get an understanding that they see what they've done, and it's that holy shit moment. But also that at least from watching it as an audience member, you just look at it like, no, I don't want to feel anything for you at all.
Well, and I think you could have accomplished it just doing it with Junior or Willow or whatever we want to call him. I think that could have been really powerful.
Yes.
Just having him have that moment. Because his storyline follows that change. So for me, that works really well. But when they all do it, but then they go back to life as normal like 5 minutes later, like, what? Finishes raping her. She gets in the water. He pulls out a gun and shoots her repeatedly. And I think if you didn't know where this movie was going, at this moment, you'd be like, huh? How far into this are we?
How much is left?
I think that'd be a really weird moment if you had no idea where this was going.
Right.
And so, when do you want to run us up to speed of where they go next?
I'll hand that one off to Ian.
At that point, that's whenever they decide to go and clean themselves up, right? Like they go to the lake that they just shot this chick in, and they take a bath, put some more clothes on, and then they find themselves going to her house, which is not the last house on the left, but supposedly we're supposed to just believe it is the last house on the left, and they run into her parents, who are have been dealing with the cops, the bumbling idiot cops, trying to find their daughter because she'd been missing for 2 days or something like that. At this point, they hadn't heard from her.
Yeah, and then we end up with them coming to spend the night at the parents' house. What the fuck? Like, I have so many issues with this, whether it's, number one, being anywhere near this house to begin with.
Right.
2, that they realize it and they don't get the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
And 3, like, if you're going to do that, then at least, like, have one of them think it's really hot that they're doing this or something, like really grind that in, that there's a reason to do it. But the biggest aspect for me is the mom doesn't seem to give a shit. Like, if your kid had just gone missing and you presume she's dead, would you be like, hey, 3 strangers need to stay with us? What the fuck?
Well, like
I'm
over
so
the course of
confused by this.
the whole movie, they keep cutting back to the parents just, like at first before their daughter went missing, they're just like hanging out the house, like, and there'd just be like these weird scenes. They just cut to them for no reason. Here they are putting up some decorations, hanging out, having dinner. And then I kind of understand later when you want to have them, calling the cops and this and that, but still you just keep cutting back to them. But like you're saying, like, the last thing on my mind would be letting some strangers in my house to, have dinner and stay the night if my kid's missing. Like, you think that, you'd be out there maybe looking around and, because people did that back then. You went out and you searched for people. Like, it's not like now you just ping somebody's phone. Oh, they're at this corner or whatever. It's like back then you went out, you would go into town and try to find, go around the area where your daughter
right?
was missing at, like this concert was at the very least. But these people never left the house. I mean,
they're just like, hey, my daughter's gone missing. Why don't you go sleep in her bed?
yeah. They give her a room. Oh, here, people can just come stay in my daughter's bed. Don't mind. She might show up at any moment because I don't know what happened to her. But just
how awkward would that be?
It'd be just like Edward Scissorhands all over again.
Right.
Laying there in bed, and then when Winona Ryder walks in and scares the shit out of him, and he blows her bed up.
Hey, that's actually an interesting Wes Craven throw because he ruins a waterbed.
Oh, with John.
Talk about a wet dream, right? But no. So this blows my mind that the parents are just like, oh, hey, yeah, let's stop worrying about Mary. We have guests.
We're gonna have a dinner party here real quick with these strangers.
What a fucking weird film. And then I'm like, did you guys just do this because like they weren't allowed to leave the house because you didn't have enough locations to shoot at? Like, I don't know. It's very odd to me.
Well, if you'd gone outside, you might have seen that it wasn't the last house on the left. There would have been another one.
Oh my God.
The next to last house. That part, again, that was one of those things that pulled me out of this one. Whereas in the remake makes sense of that because the parents or the family, they have their main house and they have a guest house, which is the guest house is, again, that connection to the original. The guest house is where the daughter was staying, at least where she was planning on staying while they were going to be there for the summer or the weekend or whatever they were doing. And so when, the villains of the film show up, they're kind of like, oh yeah, because I think the excuse the daughter gave was that she was going to spend the night with her friend. So it didn't look suspicious. So there was no reason for them to call the police. These people showed up. Oh, fuck it. You guys can stay in our guest house. Our daughter's not here. So, I mean, they make more. And that's kind of the good thing I like about some remakes is you have the original version where you see kind of those holes or those things that don't make sense, and you figure out a way to make them make sense. So I think with the remake, they do a really good job of that by having the guest house that's separate, but also builds that tension because you have that separation between the parents and the attackers, to where when you do realize that something is wrong on the case of the parents, they can get prepared for it. And when those, as far as the antagonists in the film, they understand that something's wrong, they are now compelled to leave where they are to seek out the parents to deal with them. And speaking of dealing with, we talk about the parents in the 1972 version that they seem almost like the cops, very bumbling and just kind of absent-minded about a lot of things. When these motherfuckers plan their revenge, all I started thinking was like, holy shit, these have to be Kevin McAllister's grandparents.
That's what I was thinking.
Because they were like, all right, and without saying a word as far as what they were doing, you started putting two and two. Okay, he's putting this wire outside the door. Okay, they're going to try and get these guys to come out the door. Somebody's going to trip over it. Okay, now I wasn't expecting the mom's part of the plan, which was to sexually seduce one of them. Which again, it gets at that whole thing of at least as a guy, or at least with men, in a lot of cases, it's very easy to trick men into shit, which I thought was a great thing for this film. Was all you have to do is go up to somebody and say, oh yeah, I'm interested in you. Let's go talk over here. 9 times out of 10, the dude is going to follow.
I wonder if we can do that with a certain administrative individual in our society. Oh, come on. I'd waited way too long to say that. All right, go ahead. It seems like his kryptonite. That's all I'm saying. But no, I find the mom scene is my favorite part of this movie.
That's why I didn't
was,
say anything. It's yours, man.
it was the thing I was looking forward to the most going back into rewatching this, because it is absolutely hilarious to me how simple it is for her. And you get this double bonus. The actor, I don't know if you guys know this, the actor that she does this to filmed a lot of porn. It's like the only thing he did before this. And then he filmed more porn after this. And he was asked later in his life what he regrets. And he's like, Last House on the Left. And that's so funny to me that's the one, you know. But like, I love that he's the one who's instantly like, yeah, let's go. And she gets him out there and she's like, oh, I'm going to tie you up, you know, and not quite like that, but you know, she ties him up. She goes down on him, bites down. What a great fucking scene. Like, what an ultimate fucking revenge.
The funny thing about that scene too, is she doesn't go down, you know, and get his junk out and bite it off. Like, he says, oh yeah, I'm about to come. So it's like, you know, so she's going to town for a minute, you know, and then she bites it down. It's like, you know, how many people are willing to do that to avenge their daughter, you know? Like, so, you know, I can understand, you know, biting a dick off to, you know, avenge the person that, you know, murdered your daughter or whatever. But it's like, who's going to sit there and for at least, you know, a few minutes, you know, suck some dude's dick just to get it up, just enough to get him pulled in enough just so you can then bite it off. It was just crazy.
I like that she screws with him first too by getting his dick stuck in the zipper.
Right.
I think that's so great.
There are only two other movies where I've seen this happen or something similar happen. One was Eve of Destruction, a early 90s action horror film. Is basically, you know, another iteration of Frankenstein. So the creation, this android, this robot, whatever, is built to be an assassin, and she wants to learn to be more human. So she escapes, and you know, she's trying to get it on with this guy, or meets a guy at a bar and is trying to get it on with him. But her triggers are the same as her creator. So the guy says something to her like, oh, yeah, you know, she's going down on him. He says something to the effect of like, oh, yeah, you like that bitch, you know, trying to talk dirty. And she gets pissed off and bites his penis off. And the other one was Shawshank, where's there's that reference that Dufresne has,
so good,
where the guys are threatening him like, oh, yeah, you're going to do this for me. Or, you know, or we'll kill you. And he's like, well, you know, if it's human nature or it's science that if you do that, I'll clench my jaw and, you know, I might bite your dick off. And, you know, to paraphrase what he was going. So he got out of doing that by letting him know, like, this is what's going to happen to you. So, you know, if you try to kill me while I'm doing it, you're going to die. So do you really want me down there?
You know, this is so weird. So while we were talking, I Googled dicks bit off in films. Okay. There is literally an IMDb page called Most Popular Penis Bites Off Movies and TV Series. So everybody should go check that page out. It's going to be my new life goal to see every single film that's listed on this list.
Well, what is the actual term for this? Would this be decapitated?
Wow. I don't know.
Because, I mean, there's a term for, you know, when you lose an appendage or yeah, I'm sure there's got to be one.
Oh, man. I don't know. I'm just excited there's a page all about the movies that have it. So maybe after I watch all of them. Well, there is that film that I
know we're probably going to talk about it later in the year, but that film Teeth has the same I guess the same type of paranoia that's built into it because it's supposed to be a woman who has teeth in her vagina. And I guess the vagina bites off the penises or whatever, you know, as part of the copulation routine or whatever is going on. And someone, I guess, reviewing the film or commenting about the film made reference to this. I believe they made reference to Last House on the Left. And basically was critiquing the men who were complaining about the plot of the film and said, you know, you're worried about a vagina that can bite off a penis, but you're always asking girls for fellatio.
Men are
do you
stupid.
do you not understand? Just and then I think even in the tweet or whatever the response was, that they listed a couple of the films where that had happened, and like, you realize it's more likely for you to get bitten by an actual woman during consensual oral sex than it is by this fictional vagina in a movie.
Oh man, see, this is social commentary in itself, though, because so much of society is worried about things that are blown out of proportion instead of the way more likely time. So
right,
there
like
you go.
Coronavirus.
I knew you were gonna go there.
Oh, because I've been in contact with my students, like, yeah, I don't know what you guys are doing, but we're still going out shopping and hanging out. So, cheers.
So let's get to the revenge. You have the things you were talking about, like the wire across there,
Mm-hmm.
the shaving cream on the floor, like, and of course the big bite off. But then you have crazy chainsaw man. And I cannot begin to tell you, like, I didn't remember how Dad finishes this off. Like, I knew Dad took care of Krug, but I couldn't remember what he did, right?
Mm-hmm.
When that chainsaw hit, I started laughing so hard. I love this fucking fight because Krug is like, just, there's part of him that's still like got the macho thing going on at first. But when he snaps and knows that he's fucked, he has some great facial expressions, and just everything about this scene was great to me. And then the way that Dad just crumbles when it's all over,
Mm-hmm.
like, just wow. Like, I don't know. I really enjoyed this scene that I'd forgotten existed. What do you guys think of it?
If you notice, when he's there with the chainsaw, like, some of the times you can tell the chainsaw's not even running because the chain's not moving, but they still have the sound going. But then there's other times when it is actually moving, and that's when the bad guy, he looks like he's scared shitless because he's holding a chair or something like that, and he's like, cutting into the chair. So he probably was actually terrified that this guy might, slip or go the wrong way, and he's going to get hit with this actual chainsaw because I know there were scenes where it wasn't moving, because I was like, look, it's clearly it's not moving. It just have the sound going here. I was like, and then like, no areas. He's literally cutting into a wooden chair right now. I was like, so this dude's probably scared shitless at this moment because he could lose a finger,
Right.
in the blink of an eye if this guy just moves the chainsaw the wrong direction. So that's probably why he looks so scared in some of those scenes.
And if you were going to use real sex in this movie, like, you might be terrified that Wes Craven told him to use some real violence. So
Bring out the chainsaw.
fuck some shit up. If he loses a finger, it's fine.
Yeah, as long as we get it on film, that's all that counts.
What great special effects. Oh, man. But then, so you have the cops show up and the film basically cuts off at that point. But I love how Dad crumbles. Like,
Mm-hmm.
It is such a real representation to me. Like, you would do what you have to do in the moment, and you do what you do when you're angry, and then reality hits. And I think that it's a lot stronger than just about any other thing that Dad could do there at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just really like it.
Because it kind of throws in that same, I guess, that thought of, with any of these movies, there's always that question that you ask of, what would I do in this situation? How would I react? But there's hardly ever that, this is how I would feel when it's over. And I like that they added that in because, again, to make that connection with the remake, there is no moment where the dad, the dad is allowed to process, or the mother's allowed to process what takes place. And I think that's one of the things that sucks you out of that film is you don't get that moment with the parents, because when the final guy is killed, fucking credits roll. It's the film is basically over. Whereas this film, you do have that moment because in all honesty, they haven't had that moment to fully process what has taken place to their daughter, or fully process what they've had to do this entire time.
Yeah, I know. In the remake, the father ends up paralyzing the main bad guy, and then sticks his head into I guess a modified microwave machine so that he could fry his head.
Yeah.
And I was talking to one of my buddies about that, and they're like, "Oh, that's so metal." I was like, "Well, if I was going to go through all the trouble to paralyze this guy and hide him somewhere where I could paralyze him, it's like I'm not just going to blow his head up like that. Like if that's what I'm going to do, then if I'm going to go through the trouble to make it so he can't move, then I'm going to take some time with him instead of make him paralyzed, stick his head in a microwave, and then literally walk away." That was something that took me out of that new one. Like I would have, if I'm going to do that, it's like if I was just going to kill him, I would have just killed him. But it's like obviously he paralyzed him, was wanting to torture him. It's like, well, I would have taken my time instead of stick him in a microwave and walk away. But I mean, it looks cool seeing a head explode on screen, but
it's a better time to skin him and throw him into a vat of hydrogen peroxide.
Exactly.
My wife and I had a discussion while we were watching the film, and I started laughing at certain points, and she's like, "Well," I said, "what are you laughing about?" Like she always does when we're watching horror films. And I'm like, "There's no fucking way." She said, "What are you talking about?" There's no fucking way I would not sit there and torture this guy. I'm just gonna turn, I'm gonna put his head, I'm gonna jam something into the microwave so the circuit is closed to where it can actually still operate. So there's no way. I'm going to get some jumper cables, and I want to let anybody who's listening to this know this is not premeditation. This is hypothetical. If I were in this same situation, or if I were to rewrite the situation, it would have looked more like the scene from Law Abiding Citizen, where he takes his time they're in their summer home. No one fucking knows these people are there. No one's going to come looking for them. Which then kind of makes you question, well, what was involved with the fucking cleanup afterwards? What did they do with the bodies? But yeah, I would have spent a little time with these guys, or at least whoever was left, because it wasn't going to come down to, well, you're the last guy who's here, so let's see what we can do with this. We would have spent a little time together.
The only thing that I have left to add is I like how the parents become the thing that they hate, right? Like they become the murderers. And I think that happens quite a bit in horror, as you both know. Mm-hmm. But it never fails to really resonate with me because I think it's so easy to cross that line, and especially when you have a reason like in this. But I feel like a lot of genres aren't willing to touch such things. And so I just want to say that I really appreciate that about horror, the way that we are a little more introspective, in my opinion, than some genres. So, yeah, I don't have anything left, so I'm going to leave it up to you two to let me know what you have.
Ian, it's all you.
Yeah, I don't really have much left either. I think the 2009 remake I like it better than the 72. Like it gets built up, and it's okay. Like I said, the music pulls me out of it, but like Don was saying earlier, sometimes you can go back and do a remake and take ideas and fix problems that you have with the original. And that's what, if people are going to make remakes, that's what they should do. They should try to do that and not pull a Psycho and just do a shot remake.
Man, that was weird. That was really weird. I will never understand what they were doing.
What was more weird, that or having Vince Vaughn?
I liked Vince Vaughn. Like not compared to,
Anthony
God
Perkins
over there, but yeah. But like I think he did an okay job given what he was doing. Like, but the whole concept of shot for shot is fucking weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. I do have one thing left to add because I didn't get to talk about my favorite line in this film. when the daughter is introducing her friend to her parents or whatever, and she's like, oh yeah, her parents are in iron and steel. And they're like, both industries? And she says, yeah, my mom irons and my dad steels.
Yeah.
Fucking amazing. God, I love that line.
That goes down with the Frank and Ernest line from The Long Kiss Goodnight.
There you go. So, Ian, thank you for joining us. You want to tell us once again about what you have going on in Vegas and how people can be a part of it?
Yes, you can find us on Facebook or Instagram. It's the Esoteric Order of Geekdom. And, we just do anything that's geeky. We'll do like movie. We'll go to the movies. Like we're going to see Birds of Prey, which will already be out by this point. But we do a lot of horror stuff because obviously I'm into horror. So we do horror trivia every other month usually. We do panels at conventions and stuff like that. So yeah, find us on social media.
They're going to Ian and his wife will probably join us on some panels at Phoenix Fan Fusion in May. If nothing else,
not, we'll definitely be in the audience.
Also, if you enjoyed this episode and you like these two guys and you'd feel bad if they died, you should check out my next book because I'm killing both of them in my next book. It's called The Cassowary, and I will be dropping more info on that in the future. As always, I am James Savada.
And I am Don Guillory.
And we'll see you next week here on the Necronama.com.